Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Chris with Inside the U here for my post-game reaction to Miami's big 41-17 win over Florida on the road. A lot to get into with the offense and defense, things I noticed, a lot of positives certainly in a game like this. But before I get into that, I want to talk about something that I noticed after the game was over. So I was down on the field and I was able to kind of watch the players and coaches celebrate with the huge amount of fans that showed up to watch the Hurricanes right there at the corner. And if you were a part of it, certainly I'm sure it's something you'll remember as a big moment for your time being a fan. And the reason why it really stood out to me, I thought it was great. Just the players took extra time to celebrate with the fans that were there, before they went in the tunnel, into the locker room. And Coach Cristobal as well. I heard the Mario chants, and that was great from a fan base. And what stood out to me about this moment was just thinking about all the heartbreak and the disappointment and the years of frustration. And I think that, when you get a win like this, I think it really, it's not just about one game or facing one team or to get the season off on a positive note. I just think that when these kind of wins happen, it kind of really at least helps alleviate some of those frustrations from years past. And I just thought about, when you go back through how many positive moments, how many positive games Miami's had over the last decade, for example, and it's not a lot. So that really stood out to me, that this was one of those moments. And what will it mean for the rest of the season? Certainly there's a lot of positives with that, and we'll see how the season goes. And not to compare, but just, last year I felt like everybody, myself included, with what I saw in that Texas A&M win, and look how that kind of transpired after that good non-conference start. I do think things are a little bit different with that, and I expect better results this year compared to last year because of what we saw today, the positive things that we've been hearing and kind of seeing at times, either at practices or workout, whatever it might be. And it really starts with Cam Ward. Look, he was the biggest key for Miami in my mind in terms of the offense, and you saw it today. 26-35 for 385, 3 touchdowns and an interception. Will he do that every game? Probably not, but the ability is there. And the biggest thing that stood out to me was after the interception, and if you remember, that was on the 7th pass of the game. He was 5 for 7 at that time. A really poor decision on that throw. Goes to his left, throws back across his body, throws a pick. The crowd's into it. The game's not out of hand by any means. And the other incompletion amongst those first 7 was that deep ball, a little bit of a risky throw there too that falls incomplete. So in my mind, I'm very curious to see how he bounces back after the interception on the road, first game as a Hurricane, the whole thing. Look, I think highly of Cam as a player. I didn't expect him to have this performance in this game, game 1 for him and the Hurricanes. That did surprise me. But I thought it was great that he bounced back. And when we talk about some positives, he goes 5 for 5 on the next drive. They get a field goal out of it. He had 43 yards on that drive. I thought that really sent a statement to his teammates, and they've all spoken highly about him. They believe in him, both sides of the ball. But I just thought it was really good for him to bounce back. And he has said, he said this week leading up to it, he's a gunslinger. He's going to keep throwing, and he did. And I thought that confidence really showed throughout the game, not just with the completions he was making, but how he was doing it. And I think this is what's going to be a lot of fun to watch, is this creative style of play that he has with the poise and really a real strong patience for finding guys. He's elusive out of the pocket. And I think that's the thing that you're going to see with him. Maybe not those big runs all the time. I'd be surprised, for example, if he has a 100-yard rushing game. But I think his ability to move in the pocket, whether it's moving up and back and then kind of go side to side to create more plays for his teammates, or maybe scramble here or there, pick up 10 yards, just has a really great feel for the game. And I think that is something that continue, regardless of the opponent. What you saw today in today's game, with his feel for the pocket, his creativity to keep plays alive, should excite a lot of people regardless of the opponent. Should give receivers a lot of confidence that they're going to continue, if they continue with their routes or maybe find an opening, that he's going to throw them the ball. So that was definitely a good sign from Cam, and it continued. A lot of pressure he put on with his abilities throughout the game, and I thought it wasn't just those small passes. He was going down the middle of the field, the touchdown passes to Xavier Restrepo in particular through two defenders. I thought that was really impressive. And then obviously everyone's certainly talking about it, that touchdown throw to Jacoby George in the back of the end zone as he goes to his left, kind of, like I said, he rolled to his left before and threw the pick. On this one, a really highly impressive play. And I think that's what you're going to get with him. I don't think he's necessarily careless with the ball, but I do think he's going to really put pressure on opposing secondaries to really push the issue that he is going to throw the ball and he is going to try to give his receivers an opportunity to catch the ball. And that is a very exciting brand of football. And that's why Miami fans should be really excited about what the season how it can go throughout the year. Look, certainly a lot of positives to go around on the offense besides Cam Ward. Restrepo, 7 for 112, the touchdown as I mentioned. Mark Fletcher getting in there, finished with 7 carries. But he had 2 touchdowns. I know he was excited, his teammates were, with all the work that he's been putting in to get back on the field. And then Damian Martinez, not a highly impressive rushing total. He gets the 15 carries, but I think you saw the flashes. I think you can see why he's a guy that can really put up big yardage, and I think he will. I do think what I was very curious about, and I think we saw it today's game, was the offensive identity. And they did want to pound the run, kind of go with that more conservative approach at times early on in the game. And I thought the offensive line did a great job today, providing holes for the running backs and buying time for Cam Ward. Jalen Rivers said it after the game. Look, there's some plays you have to, block your guy for 8 to 10 seconds, and they're ready for it. So I thought that was big, and I thought the offensive line stepped up. The split between left guard, between Matt McCoy, Ron Rodriguez, I think it was great in terms of if they don't have a guy, let's get them both out there. I don't know how long they'll continue to do that, but they're getting some good game film on both of those guys to see maybe if one of the guys will emerge from that group. I know Rodriguez goes down with an injury there, 2 minutes left in the game, so we'll see how he does. Speaking of injuries, just one of the few negatives in this game, full of positives. Ruben Bain goes out in the first series, doesn't come back in the game. Cristobal talked about it after the game. What he called was a soft tissue issue, doesn't expect it to be long term, thinks it'll be a week or 2. So look at the schedule. We'll see how that goes. Maybe he'll get back for ACC action if you continue to push the 2 weeks along. He won't be needed necessarily in those games, as we saw in this game, where the defensive line does have depth, and certainly they stepped up and they've got guys that can make plays if Bain is out. Short term, it's okay. Long term, as you go into the ACC schedule, you definitely want to have him on the field. So I touched on just a few of the things I didn't expect to see in this game. And another thing, just the overall result of the game, I did not expect this. And I think it was great that they outperformed what I thought. Certainly I can be wrong. I was wrong on this one. And that's a good thing that this team came out firing, because you want to see a team that does have ability, that does have talent, that does give you a lot of hope if it all comes together. And today in game 1, it definitely all came together. Now defensively, one of the question marks I had was in the secondary. And I thought this game would be won in the passing game. And I think it was. Cam goes for 385, Mertz goes for under 100. Miami's secondary played a lot of man, especially early on, and they held up. I was still wondering, even regardless of what the score was, I was wondering if Florida was going to start stretching the field a little bit more and really testing Miami's corners. There were times where I saw true freshman, O.J. Frederick, out on the outside, clearly in man-on-man coverage with one high safety look, and they didn't want to throw to him. Or on times where they did go downfield, they couldn't connect. So I thought Miami's secondary did a great job of holding up for the most part, did a really good job of not allowing big plays, even though there were some opportunities, especially early on. I thought in that mid-range game, Florida did get a few passes, but nothing overwhelming. And as far as the secondary, Jaden Harris led the team in tackles with 7. He had that interception that just fell to him, so that's a great positive for him. Now, I didn't think he the right spot on that big, long touchdown run, but they'll go over in tape. He'll work on it. I just thought he dove down a little too quick, misread the gap, whatever it might be, but he didn't get to where he needed to be to prevent that. And really, it just came down to defensive end. Tyler Barron, there was a linebacker in there as well, but Barron was the one trying to chase Johnson. But other than that, and even when that happened, it made it 17-10. I didn't think it was a huge problem for Miami because Florida at that moment was not able to throw the ball. And again, I thought that was going to be the factor. And it was, once again, it was the factor. I just thought Miami's secondary was a little bit more vulnerable. They didn't show that in this game. A great sign moving forward. We'll see how it goes moving forward after this game, but certainly game one, they definitely passed the test with flying colors. Michel Powell steps in, has that nice interception. He said afterwards in the celebration, he's kind of mocked the UF fans doing the Gator chomp. He said he wished he would have thrown up the U. So next time for the pick, look for that. He also showed a lot of confidence in this team in his post-game remarks, saying he feels like this team can play 16, 17 games. He thinks this is a playoff caliber team, and he knows he went to the championship game last year with Washington. So a lot of confidence in this team following this win, and I think that's what results can do for a team, looking to find itself after a couple rough years. So I do want to wrap this up. There's a lot to talk about this game, and there's so many positives. It's much more fun discussing positives with the team than always talking about some things that are going wrong. So certainly a lot of positive in this one, and a couple other things I want to touch on before I get out of here. I do want to get going because I have more content to do on the team and the game, and I've got to get out of the stadium. I can't be here all night. But when I did my final thoughts, there were a couple things that I noted, and I paid close attention to it in the game. And the couple things that came out to be true as big factors in the game was these middle quarters. So I said coming into the game, the middle quarters were going to be big, and certainly they were. Miami outscored Florida 31-7 in the second and third quarters. They get a couple scores in the second quarter. I thought the touchdown at the end of the second quarter after the big long touchdown by Florida was huge. It proved to be pivotal because it got momentum back in Miami's favor going into halftime, 24-10 lead when it could have been 17-10. And that was good. That I think they stretched it there in the third quarter, get a couple more touchdowns, tack on a field goal. So that's where I thought the game was won. But certainly they got off to a good start there in the first quarter as well with some good positive plays as well. Also, penalties. Look, penalties have been an issue the last 2 years under Cristobal. Tonight they were not. A great sign for a team. Only 2 penalties, 26 yards. Certainly you want it to always be 0, but you're going to have penalties. It's part of the game. But it was good it didn't get to them, and it wasn't a fact. So hopefully it's a positive sign of things to come, because I do think it is important for a team to be disciplined, not give away free yards on either side of the ball, really limit your mistakes in that regard. So that's going to do it for me. Once again, I want to thank everybody for all your support all week long. I did a lot more videos than I expected, than I normally do. Even though I'm not able to be out at practice, I was able to provide some reports and thoughts throughout the week. We'll see if that continues, if I have some things that come up. I will certainly share that because you guys did show a lot of support. I love hearing the feedback. So I want to thank you all. Definitely enjoy this one. Don't look for the negatives. Enjoy this win. A lot of positives on both sides of the ball. Enjoy it. Beating Florida doesn't happen very often because these teams don't play very often. So definitely enjoy this one. And thanks again. Have a good rest of the night. Get home safely if you're going back to South Florida. Have a good rest of the weekend. Looking forward to week 2, different challenge, no doubt about it. But definitely thanks again. Take care.